Today is April 12th, 2024, and this is another Ask Philip, where we cover all things curiosity in this group and answer your questions. But we also cover some important announcements and other goodies. And today I have one special little surprise for you in store in a few minutes. Before we get to that, just some quick announcements. The first one is if you at any point are curious as to kind of the most important things going on in the group, you can check out the featured section at the top, also called pinned posts, both on mobile and on desktop. And one of the posts I pinned recently was a poll asking you which episode topic you're most excited about. And then you can throw in a comment at the bottom with your, say, number 2 and number 3 options. And it's kind of been a race going back and forth. So reverse dieting is a complete waste of time was in the lead. Now the body composition blueprint's in the lead. Now here's the cool thing. I'm probably going to cover all of these topics eventually. It's just a matter of when. And because my solo episodes are roughly once a week on Tuesday, sometimes I have an extra one in there on a Friday. If I don't have a guest interview, then, at a minimum, it would take 5 weeks to get through all of these, or not a minimum, but roughly 5 weeks. So let me know. I've got some amazing content ready to go for all of these. Like usual, I like to take things from a little bit of a unique angle and tie together the theory and the science, but with the practice and what actually works to simplify it so that you can take that information and run with it. Yeah, some of these titles may seem a bit provocative, yet they're not far from the truth and exactly what I'm thinking. Like the reverse dieting one is just gets so much attention today. And I really want to hammer home the message of why you don't even need to reverse diet at all any time whatsoever. So that's what that episode's about. If you're like, no, I keep hearing all these other, amazing podcasters and coaches say you need to reverse diet. I'll share my perspective on that, and I'll hopefully do so in a reasoned way that will make a lot of sense to you. But go ahead and vote. I'm going to leave this up for a few more days, and then I'm just going to run with it. And whoever actually takes the action to submit their votes are the ones that get rewarded with the order of the podcast episodes. So check that out. Second thing is the podcast that's out today. I have a guest episode with Kate Galley called The Most Important Overlooked Secret to Sculpting a Body You'll Love. Now, again, it's not a huge revelation. The overlooked secret really is taking care of yourself and self-care, but that topic isn't really sexy, let's call it. And yet the wisdom that Kate brought to this episode, it was indeed one of my favorite conversations. She is full of just actionable strategies related to self-care that you often don't find. Things are often very nebulous when we talk self-care. We talk meditation and yoga and breath work and this and that, but this is much more actionable. And there's a lot of surprises in here. The other interesting thing about Kate, and by the way, I was on her podcast, which is called Healthification Podcast. She is vegan, plant-based all the way. She says she used to be an angry vegan, very much like on the picket line with the, protest signs and all that. And she shifted away from that in terms of her approach. And I very much align with her, the love and compassion she comes to conversation with, because even though I'm an omnivore, she's a vegan, we both found a huge amount of common ground between us. And I think that's what this is all about when we talk about the fitness space and being skeptical of it, but also giving room for everyone in it. Like there are definitely some cockamamie ideas out there, and they're just plain wrong information. Let's not deny it. But there's also plenty of room for opinion and values-based perspectives where, your values might be a little different than someone else's. And if, for example, you have ethical values that say, I'm just not going to eat meat, you can still meet your goals doing that as long as you follow the principles. And that's not always the case with every single little thing, but in general, that's, I think, a good approach to take. So check out that episode. Also earlier in the week, by the way, I'm kind of jacked up right now. I just had my morning coffee and I worked out, so I'm just jacked, in an effort to get jacked. Yeah. Dumb dad joke. All right. So earlier this week, I had a solo episode called Bodybuilding for Everyday Lifters Who Want to Build Their Dream Physique. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite solo episodes to record and have gotten a lot of great feedback about it. It ended up being a little bit different than I anticipated in a good way, in that I ended up covering just about every concept or psychological aspect of bodybuilding as well as the practical side, but it's not, I don't think it's overwhelming, even though it's an hour long. I think there's some really good thoughts and principles in there. I throw in a lot of the stories and anecdotes related to these that I think are important to just take a listen and absorb for anybody interested in developing your physique, not competing in bodybuilding. I don't know anything about competition and the physique sport besides what I've learned, from talking to people, but I don't know, personal experience. And I talk about that early on, but I do talk about the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting, the sport itself, all the aspects of bodybuilding that are positive that you can apply to your approach to training and fitness. And if you can think like a bodybuilder in many ways, that can contribute to making the choices that get you the results where you might feel stuck today. So check out that. All these episodes are great. But I know you don't always have a time for a lot of them. So if you ever have questions about which one you should check out, just reach out to me, DM me on Facebook or at Wits and Weights on Instagram. Last thing, I wanted to give you a sneak peek at what all of our students who just enrolled in Wits and Weights Physique University are getting access to. We sold out in the early pre-sale, but now we're in the normal pre-sale for another week. And the price right now is going to go up by about 70% once we close the doors in a week and then reopen later on, because this is the ground floor and not everything is in there that's eventually going to be in there. So I wanted to give people opportunity to get in at a very affordable rate, knowing that it's going to grow with them quickly. I'm a person of action. You guys know me. Like I'm putting the stuff in there and I'm listening to the feedback immediately of the students. And I just wanted to give you a kind of a sneak peek at what it's all about. I'm not going to send you the link or anything to enroll. That you can see that everywhere. And if you really want to join, you'll reach out to me and I'll send you that. But what you can see here is, for example, the community aspect of it, where it's kind of like Slack, where we have a bunch of channels where you can have discussions on different topics. But we're also going to have weekly coaching calls, right? So we have a coaching calls channel where I'm going to announce the call and then I'm going to provide a recording and the summary. And those are like a super on steroids version of Ask Philip, where you're actually there getting your questions answered like a coaching session. So, and chances are not everybody's going to be on every live call. So there'll be a small enough group probably that everyone can answer as many questions as they want and you'll get them answered. We're also going to be doing weekly check-ins. So the first check-in for the whole group, because we just launched, is this Sunday. And that's, again, where you basically are answering some questions and tagging me with specific support that's needed. We also, so this is the community. And then real quick, I think some of the magic in here is going to be in the course section, where any of you have ever been in like a course program, you kind of know how this works. We're going to have a ton of value in here for folks. And I wanted you to get a taste of what's in here. So besides the onboarding and nutrition plan, which, by the way, you get a custom nutrition plan when you join this, even though it's a group program, you'll take an intake assessment and I will put together a custom plan for you. It's very detailed. And it's the launching point from which you then take action and implement. And then you can come back with questions via the check-ins and the calls. So we've got onboarding, your nutrition plan. We've got a macro factor course here. I don't know if you can see it under my video, but it's called Macro Factor Mastery. We've got the monthly workout programs, which will be new programs every single month, dropping across a range of skill levels, equipment. I've got a female lower body in there, and I'll probably add more in the future. I've got a novice strength program. I've got a whole list of exercise substitutions, you name it. So for those of you who've known me for a while, where I wasn't really providing programs in the past, I am now. All the replays will be in a course. And then we have a bunch of cool courses that I'm putting together that are coming out within the next week or two. One that's all about calories, one that's about metabolism, one that's about menopause fat loss. We also have a ton of resources in here, food lists, guides, eating out, hunger management, muscle building, fat loss, just tons. And it's all in here in one place so that students don't have to hunt around. They don't have to listen to long episodes of the podcast. They're all very concise. For example, if when you first join, you're going to go through onboarding. These videos are like 5 to 7 minutes long. What's included, how to track with Macro Factor, the physique tracker, your workout log, weekly check-ins. It's just very prescriptive, like having a coach there with you. And then I am there with you in the community to answer your questions. So this is just a little taste. There's like so much in here. I don't want to spend the whole Ask Philip talking about it, but if I wanted to show you what it looks like, so it's not a mystery. If you want to join, I said I wasn't going to provide this, but it's actually a pretty easy link. Go to witsandweights.com/physique. Okay. And that'll take you to the sales page. You can read all about it, and go from there. So witsandweights.com/physique. Simple, right? Okay. I don't know why I did that, because I just did that the first time and it worked. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I had a typo. witsandweights.com/physique. Okay. So let's go ahead and unpin last week's Ask Philip. And we're going to dive into today's Ask Philip. Okay. And we're just going to jump right in because there was a fantastic question from Wyatt. And I did take notes on this because he asked a bunch of questions. And although I could be a stickler and be like, oh, only one question, I actually really love the questions that he asked and I want to answer them. Okay. So let me pull up my notes. Okay. Here. So his question is, let me jump down here and get this out of the way. All right, here we go. All right, Wyatt's question. I'm curious to learn more about the magic of maintenance that you and Alan have talked about and how it might align with body composition. So Wyatt's referring to a term that I mentioned a few times in the past. One episode that was all about maintenance was called something about sustaining your physique. See, I don't even have it ready to go. Physique, let's see. So I should have this ready, but anyway, lean physique year round. Let's see. All right. Episode 136, how to maintain a lean physique year round without cuts and bulks. So I suggest anybody revisit that episode as a prerequisite to this. So his question: is maintenance essentially body recomposition, given that you are eating near maintenance calories plus or minus 10%, eating around a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and training hard on a solid 4 to 6 day per week program? So the things you're doing already are the things we want to do, right? You're tracking and knowing where you're eating, you're having sufficient protein, you're training hard. Other than that, I would throw sleep on the list and you're pretty good of the 90% there. If they are the same, meaning maintenance and body recomp, would you recommend that over bulking or cutting? If they're not the same, what are the differences? What can you expect from eating at maintenance longer term? It seems to me that if you train for a great physique, you're not making progress without bulking and cutting. What's the argument against that? So it really is one question, but he provided a lot of great context, and then he provides more detailed context. So thank you. This is a great example of an Ask Philip question. Context: I'm following through with the cut phase you outlined in our strategy call. Bulking is fun because there's a lot of flexibility to eat what I want in social situations without feeling too restricted. While cutting, it can get somewhat discouraging to make trade-offs in social settings. Like when I ate my calories for the day, but friends invited us out to ice cream to celebrate something. Oh, oh, you're hitting me right there on the ice cream. Or we go out to eat, but I have to plan ahead for a couple of days and eat accordingly, or otherwise slow down progress on my fat loss goal. It's enhancing my discipline, but I don't think I want cutting to be frequent 1 to 2 times per year. I'm thinking you're saying no more than 1 to 2 times per year occurrence in my life. LOL. All right. Let's tackle each of these pieces. So the first question is maintenance. The main question is maintenance essentially body recomposition? And the way I'll say it is, you can achieve body recomposition at maintenance, and that's the most common way it's probably done, because most people trying to get body recomp are doing it partly because they don't want to gain, or I'm not going to say they don't want to lose weight, but they don't want to gain weight building muscle. I think that's generally the reason. They're like, well, I don't want to gain fat and gain weight building muscle, so I'm going to try to body recomp. And so for new lifters or detrained lifters who are really responsive to that muscle building signal, I think maintenance and body recomp can be a very effective strategy at first for maybe 2 to 3 months at most. And it's true, we have to be doing all the other things, right? We have to be tracking our food so that we know we're at maintenance, because that maintenance is going to shift. That's the thing about maintenance, right? It is going to shift. You have to be consuming the protein around. you said a gram per pound, but even 0.8 or 0.7 grams per pound is kind of the minimum. And then engaging in consistent, challenging training, not necessarily 4 to 6 times a week, but whatever's necessary to get you that stimulus, as long as you're training with intensity and proper execution, right? Really getting the most out of your training hard. So under those conditions, you can definitely build muscle slowly while slowly losing fat. And the main reason is that the muscle building signal is so high that by maintaining your weight, you're actually gaining weight and losing weight at the same time. I know it sounds like the same thing, but it's like your body is using the resources to build muscle um, quickly because you have this new signal coming in. It's never experienced before. It's highly amplified, and it has no problem taking the protein and diverting it over to muscle protein synthesis. But because you're at maintenance, you don't have enough energy for everything else in your body, so it will then lose fat. So ironically or interestingly, being at maintenance in that scenario is kind of like being in a slight deficit in a way from a fat loss perspective, in that your body is giving up this energy storage to help build the muscle. But once you've exhausted that after about, I'll say 3 months as a new lifter, maybe 6 months, it slows down tremendously. And so could you continue recomping at maintenance indefinitely? I'm going to say generally not, unless you think of it in terms of many, many years. So, and that's what makes it inefficient. Okay. However, here are the scenarios where it could be preferred. Number one, you have already achieved some level of physique that you're pretty happy with. You're satisfied with the current muscle mass and body fat, but you just want to keep, just tiny refinements over time, and you want to just maintain that physique. Okay, makes sense. The second reason is you, for psychological reasons, want to take a break from the stresses, not just psychological, but physiological, of bulking and cutting. And both have their stresses, right? We all know the stresses from cutting being a lack of energy. It's harder to sleep. Hormones go wreak havoc. You just feel hungry, right? All those things. You lose strength. You lose your lifts may regress. All of those negatives. I shouldn't say negatives. I should say trade-offs, because the benefit you get is a massive reduction in your fat. And then there's a stressor of building, which is, for some people, it's uncomfortable to like keep pushing the food and the calories, right? And the concern and the fears over gaining fat, and maybe you're going too fast, maybe you're going too slow. Like, there's other stressors there as well. The other reason you might like maintenance is that lifestyle factors, which you kind of already alluded to, like these social engagements. It's challenging to sustain a deficit in those scenarios. I'll say challenging only, you kind of make it harder on yourself when you have a very active social life and choose to do all those things while in fat loss, but it can be done. And that's why when we talk about fat loss, it helps when you can do it in a period that is kind of boring, right? It doesn't have a lot of that going on, or when you can make the sufficient trade-offs, or when you go at a fairly slow or conservative rate and it's not that big a deal to just do these refeeds and these breaks along the way. Even if you are going aggressively, you can still plan in deviations and refeeds and breaks, and just know that it's going to take longer. No big deal. However, some people don't want to do that. Some people, and even in a surplus, I could see, I guess it's not that big of an issue in a surplus, right? Because you kind of always have those extra calories to play with. The one situation would be in where it's hard to get food within a given day for whatever reason. Kind of have the opposite approach, but I don't think that's big of a deal in surplus. It's more of a problem in a deficit. So if you don't want to deal with that, and you'd rather just take your long time doing it, you could do maintenance. And then I guess tied to that is, if you want this, like, you kind of want to do intuitive eating, and you don't want to, not only do you not want to restrict your food, which we never want to do, you also may not want to track, and you kind of are okay hovering between like plus or minus 3 pounds of a certain body weight. You could do that, quote unquote, intuitively. This assumes you've already gone through some process of building muscle, losing fat in the past, and you've tracked before, and you kind of know what it takes to stay there and have enough protein and all of that. But that would be another reason for a little bit more relaxed approach. So that's when it might be preferred. let's continue with your question here. This could end up being a podcast episode, actually. The differences between maintenance and traditional bulking and cutting, and then the long-term expectations of that. So, uh, maintenance, we know that maintenance involves eating at a calorie level that keeps you at a certain weight, right? And instead of focusing on changing weight, you're focusing on changing body composition. And so now you kind of have to ignore the scale insofar as, you're maintaining weight. Besides that, you kind of ignore the scale and you pay more attention to your circumference measurements, your protein, your lifts. And that could get frustrating for some people because it's going to be a much slower change over time. So the whole like getting quick wins approach is harder at maintenance. So that's one difference in that bulking and cutting give you much faster change, a lot of quick wins. It's easier to see progress. The tolerance on measurements is bigger because now things will change faster, right? And so being in a calorie surplus, being in a calorie deficit kind of gives you this nice focused direction to go. And therefore all the variables are changing that you're measuring, right? Now, on the flip side, again, when you're maintaining, there's a comfort to being able to stabilize things a bit. So you can kind of get in this mode of, well, things aren't changing, so I don't have to be all on top of all these variables. I could just relax. I could adhere to a routine with my diet, with my training. My body weight might fluctuate up and down, but I'm cool with that because again, it just stays within that norm. And this could again help your physical and psychological well-being. So those are the main, like I would say that's primarily the difference in terms of mechanically the difference between them and psychologically. But then, is there an argument against bulking and cutting to make progress? I would say that it's mainly limited to newer lifters and detrained folks. I think, well, okay. The only thing that comes to mind why is if you are susceptible to like yo-yo dieting and the bulking and cutting like exacerbates some obsessive behavior you might have that hasn't been resolved. And that creates then unnecessary stress and that could potentially exacerbate metabolic adaptation and yada, yada. That could be a problem, but then that's assuming that you haven't gone through a period of maintenance first to help resolve those things and build healthy habits first, which is what I would do as a coach, right, with you. And you kind of have gone through that process. Your question is premised on the idea that you've set your behaviors up for success already. So if you're prone to like this extreme up and down crash diets, yo-yo diet, and you haven't resolved that at maintenance first, that would be an argument for not bulking and cutting. But the argument for it is simply time efficiency and the knowledge that you are actually getting toward your goal fairly quickly. And I'll be honest, like if you mapped out two people's journey over, let's say, a 3-year period, I'm pretty confident that the person who bulks and cuts is going to be able to build a lot more muscle in that period. Maybe not over 10 years, but like, do you want to wait that long? That's the key. As you're getting older and, all the negatives that are pushing against you because you're getting older. I think I covered everything. Let me think here. What else do I have in my notes? So the flexibility of being at maintenance, the magic of maintenance means you can kind of enjoy your life, not worry too much about the change that you would have to track with bulks and cuts. And that could be liberating for some people. And that could be a great place to maintain or enhance, right, your sustainable habits where the fitness and nutrition stuff that you're doing is just part of your life. It's not dominating it. Like some of us might think that bulks and cuts, now you're really just always in that mode. I personally love the bulks and cuts because of the variety of it. I would get tired. I would almost get impatient being at maintenance for too long because I would think things are not changing. So I think, if you want to be at maintenance and for like a year and see and report back and let us know how it went, that would be the ultimate answer to your question. But if you want the most time efficient results, it would be bulking and cutting with the proper tracking, measuring all the right things and doing all the right things so they all come together. And so that would naturally lead into join Wits and Weights Physique University, because we teach you all those things there and we help you implement it along the way. And I don't know, Wyatt, if you're interested in joining at this point, but we'd love to have you there. And there's a lot of really cool courses that will level up your education. And in fact, there's one course that I didn't even show today that will be the foundational course of the whole program, called Physique Foundations. And in that course, we are covering all of these topics: body composition, cuts and bulks, the nutrition, the training, even a little bit on the, like, not physique competition per se, but like if you want to get ready for a specific moment, like, you know, a photo shoot or something like that, how would you prepare? So it's got everything for physique development on the nutrition and training and lifestyle side. Wits and Weights Physique University. Go to witsandweights.com/physique. Other than that, that is our Ask Philip for today. Please comment on the video. Love the video. And let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, Alan will post the next one for next Friday, and we'll see you then.